Okay, in this video, I'm going to do solving by square root and try to get all the way through completing the square. Completing the square is a little lengthy. The next video, I'll do quadratic formula and finish up anything else I need to. Okay, so the square root one is probably the easiest thing ever, okay? As long as you have, I was trying to think what you had in your paper. Okay, this is just a basic. I know the only thing number squared that'll give me 81 is 9. Could also be negative 9, okay? But we square root both sides. This is the process. Square root of something squared is just that something, okay? And the square root of 81 is 9 or negative 9, because negative 9 times negative 9 will give me 81. Okay, so square root, I was trying to think. Let me look real quick at your square root questions. Let me enlarge that a little bit. Oh, they're all pretty simple. Okay, let's look at two specific ones on here that might, well, three that might be an issue, okay? Because that's pretty straightforward. But what if I have x squared equals, I think it was 45 on your thing. When I square root that, 45 is not a perfect square. 49 is, and 36 is. So I know it's going to be somewhere between 6 and 7. A lot of times they want it in simplest radical form, and I'll explain what that means in just a second, okay? So I'm going to square root both sides, and that gives me x. Now, I could put square root of 45 in my calculator, and it's going to give me 6 point something, right? Probably about 6.8 something. But they want it in simplest radical. So that all that means is I want to break it down as much as I can. So 45 is the same as 5 times 9, right? Okay, so I've broke 45 into 5 times 9. And 5 is a prime number. I'm done with it. But 9 is the same as 3 times 3, right? Okay, so anytime I'm square rooting, it's really what number times itself will give me that. Well, I have a pair of 3s, so I know that can go on the outside of my square root, and whatever's left goes on the inside. Okay, now sometimes you might have, because I want to make sure you know what to do no matter what. Sometimes you might come down, let's say your tree comes down and you have 5 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, okay? So in this case, you have a pair of 3s, right, that I can bring out, as well a pair of 2s that I can bring out. And so you say 3 times 2 is 6, and whatever's left on the inside goes in the square root, okay? If I have more than one, let's say I had 5 and I had a 7, then 5 times 7, those are the numbers left inside, would be 35, okay? Does that make sense? So I just want to kind of show you any variations. Any pairs of anything come out. And if you have more than one, you multiply them together. Anything left on the inside stays on the inside. If you have more than one, you multiply and put that on the inside. Okay, so that's that one. Another one you had, they try to make this complicated, and it's really not. Probably the easiest part of this whole thing, in my opinion. Okay, then you had another one. It was like x squared equals negative 10. Okay. Okay, this goes back to our imaginary numbers we were talking about earlier. If I square root, okay, I'm going to have x, and then 10 is the same as 2 times 5. There's no pairs there, right? So I can't pull out the 10. It's got to stay inside. But I'll pull an I out to take care of that negative. Oh, and I forgot on that previous one. Always put a plus or minus, okay? Meaning I can have I square root of 10 or negative I square root of 10, okay? That's just usually how they write it. So if you see that, like this over here, they'll normally say plus or minus 9. Okay, that's the same as 9 or negative 9, okay? So make sure, if you see that, that's what it means. And then the last one you had was I don't remember exact numbers. Did it come up with a, let's do it like this. Okay, so if I'm doing this, I'm going to square root both sides. That still cancels out. I'm left with x minus 4 equals the square root of 8. Now 8 is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2, right? So I have a pair of 2s, and I have a 2 left over, right? Now I'm going to add 4 to the other side. So now it's x equals 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2. And we'll see answers like this when we get to the quadratic formula as well. I don't know if you remember it from when you were in school, probably years ago. Anyway, I didn't mean to age you there, but you know, I know you have older kids. Okay, so that's that one. I'm gonna have to break this into another video because completing the square will probably take me 10 minutes to go through that. It's my least favorite as far as factoring. You can also use the calculator, but sometimes they require that you do specific. So I'm going to stop this one, and then the next one will be completing the square.